Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the Looks Like On podcast.
So last night I had a conversation with Paul Kurlancheek, someone who personally knew Ram Dass and meditated with him in the woods. He described Ram Dass, his guru, and two other people as well, as the happiest people he had ever seen. People that seemed to be living in poverty, but when they were offered things, they would refuse them. It just made me think, like, wow, these guys are really living abundance. It helps me to visualize what people like that would be like because I've never met one in real life. I've only read about them in books and stuff like that. So to hear a story from somebody that actually met people like that is like, wow, that's mind blowing.
Okay,
Hi.
there we go.
Awesome. Hi, sir. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm hoping that you can still hear me. I put my phone down so I won't be moving it all the time when I'm trying to hold it.
Cool. Yeah. It sounds great. Yeah. And
Oh,
thank you for your patience. I know I screwed up on the scheduling a bit.
don't worry about it. I'm not good at signing up for calendars. Anything that has to do with technology is not
Mm.
my forte. Believe me, it's not what I'm best.
It's okay. Actually, could we move you a little bit closer to the microphone?
That's about as close as I can get.
That
I
sounds good.
think. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's much better. Yeah. Awesome, sir.
Very
Okay, so yeah, I want to tell all our listeners. Yeah, so I met here Mr. Paul at the Ram Dass Facebook group,
good.
and I've also interviewed one other person from the group, my friend Carla, that I met her through that same group.
Okay, cool. And I'm going to try to connect you with a friend of mine who's very big. He lives in California, and his two of his best mates are probably the two ladies that ran Ram Dass's Seva organization, did all of the work behind the scenes of that,
Wow,
and so he has attention to. So I'll turn you on to.
that's amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, so
Really.
let's just get into it. Like, how did you meet Ram Dass? That's crazy. And what year was
Um,
this?
it was 1968. It was the fall of 1968. I know that because it was not. It was October or November of that year, and I think it must have been pretty close to when he came back from India. I'm not sure, but
Whoa.
uh, there was only 10 people at the workshop. Um, I only found out about it because my ex-wife was somebody that said, "Let's go see this guy." Well, I don't want to go see this guy. I, why would I want to go see this guy? Well, that guy changed my life completely. I mean, one I call it a workshop, whatever. He was just talking about his life. That's all it was. He talked for 3 or 4 hours about his life. It was called the Bucks County Seminar House outside of Philadelphia, and it was a barn. It was literally a barn. And I walked out of there and immediately became a vegetarian. I immediately found
Whoa.
focus in my supposed to be doing here. All the years, so in 1968, I was 22 years old, and I had no focus. I was just doing what people did in my family. You went to high school, you went to college, you got a job, you got married, and you got a job, and that's what I was doing. And I had no, I had no idea what he answered questions for me that I didn't know I had questions. He answered the questions that I didn't even know I had,
Uh-huh.
and that was so profound. It was what started to me was I started following wherever he would go and do a workshop. I would be there if I could. So I went to New York. I went to New York City. I went to Omega Institute in upstate New York. I followed him out to the Naropa Institute in Boulder, Colorado. I happened to be there the weekend that it opened, um, and many other occasions where it happened over and over again. He just answer questions for me that he would keep me on track if I get lost, because I could get lost in my old patterns of behavior, my old way of thinking, and he would, get me back on track.
But so please correct
So,
me if I'm wrong, but Ram Dass, before he became a guru, he was a scientist, right?
he was at Harvard. He was a psychologist at Harvard, and he became friendly with Timothy Leary, and so they were the ones that started the whole psychedelic movement. I mean, literally, those two probably did more for that movement than anybody else on the planet at the time. And it's ironic because I smoked my first, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I smoked my first joint in 1967 and
Cool.
loved it, fell in love with it, and just absolutely worshipped it. But I promised myself I would never do hallucinogens. Kind of a story some other people I don't relate to. But back then, there weren't a lot of people. Again, this is way diverting from the track, but it's a funny story. I mean, I said, I will smoke pot, but I will never do any hard drugs. I will never do anything else for that. I'd
Yeah.
already seen Leary. He'd come into Allentown, Pennsylvania, near where I was, and I went to see him. And even after that, I said, well, I don't want to do that stuff. That's not for me. And I only had one contact for marijuana because it wasn't available. It wasn't like there was a guy on every corner like it is today. And I went down to see him and I said, I want some weed. And he said, well, we don't have any, but I got this stuff called psilocybin. And just like that, I said, I'll take it. Give me 10.
Cool. Wait,
I
did you
think that,
trip with Ram Dass? Like, was he also tripping with you?
no, I never tripped with him. That was he, by the time I met him, he had stopped tripping. I take that back.
Wow.
He was no longer an advocate of psilocybin. He was an advocate of his guru, and an advocate of the program of just freedom, liberation.
Mm.
So I went home. I took the psilocybin and something, again, this is, I don't know what stories are appropriate or not, but they're reality.
Yeah.
I took the psilocybin. I said, "Oh, this doesn't work. Nothing's happening to me." And all of a sudden, I had the urge to vomit. I went in, running into the bathroom, and I vomited into the toilet. And I looked down at the toilet, and I said, "Oh, look at those colors, man! They're just wonderful." They all started on my vomit toilet, and wow! And then I tripped for 3 days because I loved it so much.
Cool.
So that's certainly getting off the point, but I know that's again light story.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I would like to go back, just if we could, and maybe whoever's listening to this could do the same thing with this, is just to do like 10 breath count so
Yeah.
that I can get centered, you can get centered, and anybody listening can get centered, and maybe we'll all get the most out of this stuff it's meant to be. So if you don't mind, close your eyes, and I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to breathe in and count 1.
Yeah.
And breathe out 1. Breathe in 2. Out 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5. Out 5. In 6. Out 6. 7. 7. 8. 8. 9. 9. 10. 10. And I'd like to share my intention with you for being here with you is to help anyone that's listening to this to heal at the highest level that they can, and for the deepest level they can, and for the highest good of the universe. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and we'll go back.
This conversation feels like perfect timing.
Yeah. It's the thing that I learned most in my, travels is around the spiritual life path, which has been long now, at least for me. And if we could, I'd like to go back to even earlier, before that spiritual path started, if that's possible. Is that all right with you?
Definitely.
I'll make this the shortest version I can. I grew up in a small coal mining town in Pennsylvania. And we were a Jewish family, and were only very few Jews in this town. So life was very difficult. First of all, my family worshipped. My family came through. My father and mother came through the First World War, the Second World War, the Depression, and the Holocaust. And so they had a mountain of fear in their lives. The fear of not knowing what was going to happen, what could be taken away, could everything be taken away, and so I grew up in a house that was filled with fear as the emotional background behind everything. And because they were concerned mostly about finances, both of them worked 6.5 days a week. And there was not much in the way of love going around in our family. So what happens to a child in that kind of situation, and certainly what happened to me, was I found a path of addiction as a way to help me get through all that stuff. My first addiction was sugar. I was 7 or 8 years old when I had my first addiction. And and of course with sugar, the consequences of that are you get fat, and when you get fat, and then you get picked on at school, and nobody wants you on their team, and my self-esteem was already very low because of the lack of love in the family. And then you go through all the consequences of addiction, and one addiction led to another addiction, which led to another one, to another one, to another. By the time I was 22 years old, I was addicted to about 5 different things. And none of them ever got really bad, because if one started to get bad, I would just put that one aside and the other 4 would ramp up.
Wow.
So when I met Ram Dass, a lot of clarity came, just a ton of clarity came as to what was my purpose on this planet. What was the one of the things he said that I've always appreciated was that life is a school, and that's what we're here for. We're learning how to become the best version of ourselves. He didn't say it, I'm just paraphrasing. To become the best version of ourselves possible, and to get as much knowledge and wisdom and compassion in our life, so we don't have to keep doing this run over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That was the bottom line.
Like, can you tell the listeners like how that clarity helped your mental health?
Well, it gave me a reason for living. It changed, I think one of the key factors to having life is having fulfillment, having a sense of fulfillment in your life, that, it wasn't about just going after the almighty dollar. I wasn't going to, I was trained to worship money. I mean, I was trained that right out of the gate. I started working when I was 13 years old. And, we learned from our family, and we learned very young. If you listen to Bruce Lipton stuff, he talks about all of the programming we have is completed by the time you're 7 years old. It's only after you're 7 years that you can start to have a conscious mind. You start to maybe weed through some of the programs that you're living by. So I was living by the program of, get a job, get work, get money, get a wife, get a family, get all the, all the serious success stories. And I wasn't able to change my life because my program was so strong that I met Ram Dass, and I changed my life, and I got some information, and got some wisdom about how to live, but I couldn't change it all at once.
Right.
I stayed an addict for a long time. I was addicted to weed, so it wasn't particularly, horrendous. Like, you lose your family, you lose your house, you lose your car. I used to take 2 hits on a joint at night, and that was my addiction to weed. But I didn't want to do it anymore, and I couldn't stop. My definition for addiction now is I don't want to do this anymore, and I can't stop.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes it's easier for people who have addictions to see that than, because a lot of times denial is so big. But anyway,
Because it feels weird that you tell yourself like, okay, I'm gonna stop doing this now, but then it's like, wait, why do I want to keep doing it? Like, I really want to do it.
I can't stop. I don't want to do it. Weed has a way of leading people to paranoia. Not everybody. I listened to some statistics more recently, and it seems like nobody knew this stuff back then. But now it's probably some people, some percent of the population that smokes weed gets paranoid. Now, I
Mm.
didn't have that. I smoked weed for 26 years, and I didn't have that for all 26 years. But the last couple of years, I did have it, and but I couldn't stop. And I guess once I did stop, and I had help through 12-step program and a therapist, um, I was able to stop. And then said, "Well, what do you do now? If you don't drink or smoke weed, what do you do? How do you live?"
Ah, right.
And so I had to get reprogrammed around that, and that's
Is
another
it
story.
is it like an identity crisis type of thing where it's like you're not really sure who you are?
I stopped smoking weed and stopped drinking alcohol when I was 47 years old, and I had no idea. In retrospect, I was just living this. I was a father. I was a businessman. I was meditating. I was doing Tai Chi every day. I was doing Qigong. No,
Cool.
not back then. I was doing Tai Chi every day, but I couldn't stop smoking weed.
Ah,
So at 47, I recognized, and only with help, all the things, everything I've learned is not me being any brilliant guy. Everything I've learned is because someone stepped into my life and gave me the answers that I needed, or opened the door for me to see
mhm.
see more clearly. That makes sense.
Sure.
So would find these different kinds of people, and they would help me out. As far as to get back to the Ramdas story a little bit more about how profound he was, is I never stopped looking for his workshops, and all through that time, from when I first met him, um, I never stopped looking for his workshops, and actually wanted to find his teacher, his guru, Nimkoro Baba. And so I'll tell you just a couple of some stories that are funny. They have poignancy, and they're also funny and humorous. Because
Mm.
humor is a large part of the spiritual program. It seems if you can't laugh at yourself, you don't have humility, and that's one of the key features of spirituality, anyway.
Yeah, right.
So tracked Ramdas down to where he lives in Franklin, New Hampshire. Not like Stockton. Other people knew, and a lot of people had gone there. His father had a home and an estate. He didn't have just a home; he had an estate. His father was president of the New Haven Railroad and was a lawyer and was very, very wealthy. And they
Mhm.
had this estate, Franklin, New Hampshire, on a lake. And me and my wife at the time, and one of my friends decided we're going to go up there. Why not? We'll go up, and I don't know how we knew he was going to be there. I don't remember that part. It was way too long ago. This was in the early 70s. This is in yeah, 71, maybe 72, somewhere in there. And so sure enough, he's there. And if you look at any of the history of Ram Dass, he became so popular that hordes of people used to go to see him in Franklin, New Hampshire, and they'd be camping on the lawn. Again, they had this big, big
Wow.
estate. And but we get there, and there's nobody else there. It's just me and my wife and my friend, and there's nobody else there. So we have a private audience with him. It's like just the three of us and him. And his father had a barn. I would live in his father's barn. That's how clean it was and nice it was. And up on the second floor of the barn, it wasn't a hayloft, it was some rooms. So he gave us a place to stay up in the rooms there. And then he had darshan with us, which is spiritual gathering between. He brought us into his space, and he spoke to just us, and we were like sitting 5 feet away from him, literally.
That's awesome.
And at some point in the now this yeah, so this is 71. There was a time when I first met him that when I gave up became a vegetarian, I also gave up weed and booze uh, and um, and I was really trying my best to go on this path, really doing the best I could to get on this path. And so I'm prefacing this because I wasn't high, I hadn't done drugs for quite a while,
Mm.
and during the course of his talking to us, I'm looking at his face, and I feel like I'm looking at his face, and all of a sudden, his face just dissolved into white light. Now,
Damn.
I don't know what to do. I mean, like, it's my reality is he has a body, I can see the body, but his face has dissolved into white light, and I'm just looking at this being that was so pure at the time.
Mm.
And that's all I can say, about that. So the interesting anecdote that goes along with that story is the next day we go down to the lake to swim, and it's a long walk from that house across this estate to the lake. And I'm swimming in the lake, and I have to pee, and I pee in the lake. There was no place to go. And all of a sudden, I see Ramdas crossing the street. He's coming down into the lake to swim, and I'm going, "Oh my God! I just peed in the lake that my spiritual teacher is swimming in," and I'm feeling like, "Oh my God!" I just, sin is like big, and I'm from a Jewish culture, and sin is a big thing there.
Uh,
And I think I'm all of a sudden going, "Oh my God!" I just didn't. I'm traumatized by the fear that something sacred, not sacred.
mhm.
But he would have, had he known, he would have laughed at me. I'm sure he wouldn't talk about anything.
Geez, I'm really wondering now, like, what effect did Ram Dass have on people, like when he would first meet them?
Well, his at the at that some point or another, very shortly, he came back. He went to India twice, spent significant amount of time with his guru, and then came back twice. By the time before 1973, this had happened. So in that 5-year period, by 1973, if you wanted to go to a Ram Dass workshop, there were hundreds of people there,
Mhm.
and it got to be where he printed his book "Be Here Now," and that became like a Bible for many people. Not a Bible in the sense of being dogmatic or anything like
That
that.
book helped me out just a few weeks ago. I felt like I needed some guidance, and I
There
just
you
happened
go.
to have the PDF of it. So just
Yeah,
on my
yeah,
Kindle. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome.
yeah. I mean that's really the preaching of Eckhart Tolle now, who's like this world phenomenon. I mean, it's really
Mhm.
the same thing as just be in the moment.
Exactly.
And you know, yeah. So it,
Like, what other
his
teachers do you feel also have that same message?
well, so as another part of the story, I wanted to find his guru.
Mm.
He didn't tell anybody who it was. He wouldn't reveal. His guru had made him say that he would not expose him to the because the rest of the world would have just gone over there. I mean, everybody.
Mhm.
So I was living in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania at the time. This story will relate to that. I was living in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania at the time, and had a really good friend there. He was an Indian man. His name was Dr. Mitra, and he was a chemistry professor at King's College. And as a sideline, he was also a Sanskrit scholar, and he taught a course at King's College, not for credit, but he taught a course called the Bhagavad Gita, and that's like the, the core of Hinduism. And
Mhm.
so I took the course, and I got friendly with him, and I ended up getting invited to his house a number of times, Dr. Mitra, and he had the loveliest wife ever and the most wonderful son ever. And he would bring people over from India, and they were living in his house, his nieces and nephews, or nephews mostly.
Mhm.
And so to, to help you unfill in the story, we had another friend that lived up in Mount Pocono, and somehow, I don't know if it was me, I can't tell you if it was me or his name was Shakti Price, he's probably passed on now. One of us contacted Ram Dass and said, "Come and do a lecture at my house, at this man's house."
Mhm.
And it was a nice little facility, and he was an advocate of spirituality, Eastern philosophy. And so Ram Dass showed up there, and I brought my friend Dr. Mitra because I figured Dr. Mitra, he's a Sanskrit scholar, he would like to meet this guy. And so I bring Dr. Mitra up there and some other friends, and it was a great listening experience. And then, just as a side story, because this is reality also, in the evening we decided to meditate outside in the woods. Well, when you meditate in the woods in the spring season or the summer season, in the Mount Pocono area, you are attracting every mosquito in county,
Dang.
or at
That's,
least it feels that way.
mhm.
And so Ramdas is sitting up there, and he's sitting, legs crossed, eyes closed, hands on his lap, and I'm trying, man. I am sincerely trying, but I'm freaked out by mosquitoes. I had literally a trauma with the mosquitoes in my childhood,
Damn.
right? And so, like, I'm there to sit there, And I can't sit there, but I'm opening my eyes every once in a while and I'm looking at him and he's just sitting there and he's totally quiet and he's totally, and again, this is before 1973, as I said. Um, it's within 5 years of his beginning his story. And I'm just going, oh man, I'm so, I just want to be him, like that's all I
Mhm.
wanted to know. And it never happened that it turned out that way.
Do you think he was trying to
Um,
tell everybody that like what he's experiencing can also be experienced by everybody?
well, absolutely. I mean, we all have like struggles, by God. I mean, nothing, my life got much better after I stopped drinking and smoking weed. Significantly, I joined the 12-step program, which is a spiritually based program. It's Alcoholics Anonymous.
Mm.
And, um, you know, but everybody still has struggles in their life at different times. And, I just think that what he was teaching us was how to create a space inside of us that we can nurture and foster. And it can be a space that's a quiet space, that's just a space of inner wisdom, or it could be a space of compassion and love where you can go and just be compassionate with yourself. So all these are just like tools for how to get through, how to, again, if the goal, I worked with people for 20 years that suffered from trauma. That was
Mm.
my and with every one of them, the trauma was significant, and it was not just one event; it was multiple events. Because trauma victims, if they're traumatized at childhood, trauma becomes their love language.
Mm.
That's the way they experience love. So they go out and re-experience trauma in different ways. Many of them join the military because where else can you find trauma free and
Mm.
and get paid? Right? So all these life lessons that we get. He was a teacher. He was my teacher for sure. And to get back to the story of, so we're in Mount Pocono, and I survived mosquito meditation. And Dr. Mitra says to me, as we're going home, or the next time I see him, he says, "Well, I know who his guru is." Dr. Mitra, there's 1 billion people at the time in the 1970s. There were 450 million people living in India. That's a lot of people, right?
Mm.
And Dr. Mitra is from Calcutta, which is one of the biggest cities in India. But he has a summer home in Vrindaban. Vrindaban is where Ram Dass's guru had his temple. What are
Wow.
the what are the chances that
Wow.
I mean, I had tried to find his guru in 1971, maybe earlier than that, by going to Europe, and literally we're going to take a bus. There was a bus that used to go from Italy to India, and we were going to take that bus. We were going to
Oh.
go to Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and Pakistan, and that's how dedicated we were to getting there. But war broke out. We're in France trying to get to Italy to get on the bus, and we hear there's a war broke out between Pakistan and India. And I'm pretty much an adventurer, but I don't go through wars. I don't want to have to travel through a war-torn country. But
Mm.
anyway, so Ram Dass, Dr. Mitra says, well, here's the name of his guru. It's Karoli Baba, and if you want to go visit him, you can go to New Delhi, stay with my brother in New Delhi, and my brother will take you to Vrindavan. We have a house there, right? We
Wow.
have a house there, and we'll make sure you get over to meet the temple where he's staying. And so the same three of us that went to Franklin, New Hampshire, eventually we get a $450 round trip ticket to India, which stops in London, Frankfurt, Italy, Greece, Pakistan, Turkey. It's like the local bus tour to
Ah,
get to.
cool. That's awesome.
So we get to, and that's a whole story in itself. I mean, that's a long story.
I
Um,
I heard some story. I don't know. Maybe you were there. Like, some story about like Ram Dass in India with, yeah, with I guess his group of people, and the trains stopped working or something. Like the trains are just like not functioning for 3 days, and they have to wait for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories. Yeah, Ramdas is a wonderful storyteller. There's
Yeah,
no one. He is. He was brilliant. I mean, to be a Harvard professor, yeah, he's brilliant. But
true.
then he turned that around, went from being science based to spiritual based, and he's affected tons of people, tons of people.
Mhm.
Um, so we get to. I don't know. Do you want to hear the rest of this?
Yeah, yeah, please.
You might as well tell that story because it's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And it's so I'm with my wife who's from New Jersey, and she's pissed off at all of this spiritual tripping I'm doing. She's a reality folk. She came from the projects in Newark, New Jersey. I don't know if you can that mean anything to you, but that's like that's really difficult living. That's very poor,
Mm.
and and they get to be very reality based. Forget about this guru stuff and folk stuff and all this stuff. So I'm with her and I'm with my friend, and he's kind of she comes along because I'm going, and he comes along because he's interested also in meeting. So we get to the teach. We get to New Delhi. I get into New Delhi, and I'm sick as a dog right out of the gate. I got sick on the airplane going to New Delhi. I got stomach sick. You know
Oh
how people
man.
get sick in India, they get dysentery.
Yeah.
I got dysentery on the plane. By the time we got to our host house in New Delhi, I was already in the toilet. Now, and they don't have
Oh.
toilets back in 1971. They have a hole in the floor.
Oh man.
It's like it's comical and it's not. I mean, I'm struggling. That pain is out of this world, and I'm stuck. So I'm in this house, but I can't go anywhere because I can't get 20 feet from the toilet.
Mm.
But we go. Eventually, I get well enough that we can go to the temple, and so the brother of the guy I told you about, Dr. Mitra's brother, takes us to his house, and he introduces us to his two house servants. Now, a house servant in India is literally a house servant. They serve the house. They don't do anything else. They do it 7 days a week. They do it all the time. Um, they are people that are serving God by serving the house.
Mm.
Now, hard for us to understand, but that's the reality. So they're not serving the master of the house. They're serving their God, whether it's Krishna or whatever, by serving the house. So I meet these two guys, Krishna Bahari Das. I remember his name, and I don't remember his brother's name. And I've never met people so happy in my entire life. These are the happiest people I've ever met in my entire life. They get
Mm.
up at 5 o'clock in the morning and they do what's called puja, which is they light fires and do worship services for their god. That's
Mhm.
at 5 o'clock in the morning. They eat one meal a day, and they have no possessions other than a little a cloth that's wrapped around their waist. That's it, and I mean it. This is it. They have one cloth around their waist and no possessions, and they're happier than anybody I've ever met.
Whoa. That's deep.
Isn't that crazy? And
It's
they eat one meal.
like Ramana Maharshi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like that, right? Something like that.
Well, there's other guys. There was another guy. There was another guy that was also living with the guru. That was the main teacher for Ramdas. Ramdas didn't get all of his teachings from his guru. He got a lot of the teachings from this man who was also living. He was living on 2 glasses of milk a day. That was his sustenance.
Oh wow.
He was Ramdas's teacher, and Ramdas tells the story, and it's I can understand that when they couldn't move something because it was too heavy, they would get this guy that was living on 2 glasses of milk a day who was bone thin, and he would be able to move things that nobody else could. I mean, that kind of
Cool.
stuff is just, yeah, it's way cool. So anyway, we get to the temple. So the brother says to the one of the Krishna Varidas, the houseman, take them to the temple. Now he's taking us to the temple, and I have to jog to keep up with him, because if you grow up in a culture where you walk and that's all you do is walk, you walk fast. And I've
Mm.
had this experience on another time, but anyway, so we're jogging to keep up with him. We get to his temple, and we sit there all day. We sit there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we go back to the room. And then we sit the next day, and the same thing happens. And we sit the third day, and the next thing happens. And the fourth day, and this is so crazy, it's so ironic. I don't know what to think of it. Outside of the temple, there's a picture. The god behind all this is called Hanuman, the monkey god
Yeah.
from the Ramayana. So that's who they worship, is this monkey god. And they have a big statue of this monkey god. And it's the fourth day, and I'm just all I want to do is meet this guy. It's all I want to do. I'm hoping that he's gonna touch my forehead, and I'm gonna go off into nirvana for the rest of my life, which didn't happen. But on the fourth day, I bow down in front of this idol. Now, if you're a Jewish guy, that's the first deadly sin. That's the most
Damn.
deadly. All the deadly sins, that's the first one, is to bow before any graven image. I don't know if you know anything about, but that's it. And that's how I'm raised. And I'm thinking lightning's going to strike me, but I don't know. I'm driven to do it. I'm just driven to do that. On the fourth day, he walks out of his part of the temple where he's staying with 2 or 3 other people. They walk right past us. They don't say, they don't nod, they don't do anything. They walk right past us and get in a car, and they're going somewhere. I have no idea where they're going. I think I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it worked out. So then we go back on the fifth day, and on the fifth day he says, "Come on in." He doesn't say that. Somebody comes and gets us. And my wife is wearing a sari at the time. You know what a sari looks like?
Yeah.
Wrapped cloth around. I don't know your history at all. I should find out your history, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So he calls us in. We're the only Westerners. No, it's not true. There was one other Westerner there at that time. And again, if you know the story, there were always Westerners there. Always lots and lots of Westerners there. Just like the time we go to Franklin, New Hampshire, we're the only 3 there. But there is one girl, a young woman. I don't know what her nationality was, but she's Anglo for sure. And she's standing behind him, kind of like, she's like a nursemaid to him or something like that. I don't know. He's an old man by the time we get there. So this is 1973, and it's probably in the spring of 1973, because it wasn't super hot, but it was hot, maybe spring, early summer. Anyway, that becomes important later. And we're standing, I'm 5 feet away from him. I'm not literally that close to him. And I look at him, and I go into a state of ecstasy that was absolute ecstasy. Absolute. And I've tripped a bunch of times, so I know ecstasy.
Was that from making eye contact with him or just being around him?
That's all. Eye contact with him. That's all it is. Eye contact.
Damn.
He never said a word to me the whole time I was there. And then just as fast as I go into ecstasy, this thought comes into my mind, he's only a man, and I go plummeting down from as high as I was in, you can see my finger, from as high as I was in ecstasy, I go plummeting down just as fast, just as far into depression.
Whoa.
I've waited all this time, and it's just a guy. And then that lands in a millisecond or a very short period of time. I'm snapping my fingers. And the next thing I know, he opens he's smiling at me, and he's got 2 teeth on the top and 2 teeth on the bottom. And he's got a big fat body, and he looks like a hippopotamus. And I start laughing. I mean, inside I go into complete humor. I mean, I'm just laughing inside of me. And I really truly believe, and I don't know how, I can't prove this at all, that he orchestrated everything that just happened. That none of this was my orchestrating. This wasn't my random thinking. This wasn't anything other than he was giving me the lesson of humor, first of all, that I was taking myself much too seriously, that because I was so caught up in I want to be enlightened. I want to be enlightened in this life. I want to be in nirvana. I want to have satori. I want to have
Yeah.
all these things done. And I came here all this way, and you're going to give it to me. And all of a sudden, no, he's not giving it to me. Let me finish that story, and maybe what you want to end there, whatever you want to do. My friend who's standing next to me, my wife is not standing next to me. She's standing back next to my friend. And I don't know what happened between him and Curly Bob. He never told me his experience. I don't know. If he did tell me, it wasn't anything that I could remember. But we got to my wife. Now remember, she's pissed off at this guy. She's pissed off at the guru because there's something in the tradition of the guru that they give you food. It's called darshan.
Mm.
And it's a blessing to you that you get this food, right? And she's pissed off because the food he's giving out is candy. It's like this very sweet. We don't have it often in America, but it melts in your mouth really fast, and it's got no nutritional value whatsoever. It's probably got anti-nutritional value actually, right? And she's pissed off, and she doesn't believe in gurus anyway, and she just is pissed. To tell a little bit of the story, she's wearing the silk sari, and she's pissed off at me because I decided to be celibate while we're there, and she's wearing the silk sari that she's feeling sexy in, and I'm not doing anything to fulfill her needs. She's pissed off at me. She's pissed off at the guru. Somebody stole something of value of hers. I think somebody stole a copy of the I think it was a copy of the Bhagavad Gita by Hermann Hesse, right?
Wow.
And you know that, and she's pissed off about that, and she's from Jersey, and Jersey people, it's very hard for her to give up any kind of a resentment. Very hard. Forgiveness. All right, so she's looking at this guy, and all he does, and he didn't acknowledge me, he didn't acknowledge my friend in the way of nodding to us, or doing a hand gesture, or offering us any candy. He didn't do any of that, and nobody knows that she's pissed off at him and why. And he says to the girl that was standing in the background, the Anglo girl, he says, "Give her some candy," in his Hindi language.
Mm.
So she goes over and gives my wife, Mary Lou, some candy, which is like so ironic because how does he know that this is the thing that's pissing her off the most? And then he says to the girl, the Anglo girl, and somebody's interpreting all this, "Give her more." So now she has her hand out, and he's filling up her hand. She's filling up her hand with candy, and she can't possibly get any more candy in her hand. And he says, "No, give her more." And the girl reaches over and pulls up my wife's sari, so it becomes a fold, and she's pouring candy into the sari. Oh, come on. How is this possible? How is it possible that anybody could know that she was so pissed off about, because, my wife is really big-hearted. She loves helping people, and she wants the people to get fruit and vegetables, and she wants to make sure they're nurtured and nourished.
Mm.
And so that's why she's pissed off. It's not because he's giving them food, but he's giving them shit food, junk food, junk food. And I'm looking at that going, wow, I wonder if she knows. I don't think she even got it. I'm not sure she ever got it. That's why.
He was
But
controlling her. That's awesome.
Controlling it. It's in absolute control. After you're done with this, and we're with them maybe 10 minutes the most, 5 minutes, maybe. How long does it take to look at a guy and get some candy? Maybe we're there 5 minutes, and he says, "You have to go now and don't ever come back. And if you don't come, if you come back, I will leave." Wow, that's a pretty strong statement. Now he ended up doing that to Ramdas a bunch of times, but I didn't know that. But man, we just waited 5 days to see you, and in my hope, my dream of dreams, I'm sitting there going, "Well, he's going to take me in, and I'm going to be, I'm going to be able to study with some of the students."
Cool.
You're done. So I come back from that experience, and there's lots of other experiences I had, and I won't tell you all of them, but what comes to mind most of all is meeting those two Krishna Bahari and his brother, like seeing how they can serve something that you can't see, smell, taste, or hear, that you don't know if it's real, you don't know if it's there, and they have this wonderful, joyous life.
Mm.
And have nothing. I didn't tell you that part, sorry. I offered them food. I felt bad for them. I offered them food. No, we don't want food. I offered them money. No, we don't want money. They had what I didn't have. They had so much love and so much love. Just that. They had so much love that there was nothing I could offer. Everything else was silly. What are you going
Mm.
to offer filled with that much love?
Right. So what else can you give him? Like they're abundant.
What can you give them, right? The lesson that I'm never going to be a meditator. I've been meditating since 1969. I still can't meditate worth a damn. I'm not good at it. My mind wanders. I think I have ADHD, which would be fitting.
Mm.
So the path of love is probably the path that I'm most connected to, and that comes natural. That somehow was built into my system. I didn't know I didn't know about it. I mean, it took a long, long time. I eventually went back to school at the age of 50 and got my master's in spiritual psychology. So
Nice.
yeah, so I could help people both on the spiritual dimension and the emotional and mental dimension.
Oh man, so you definitely know like David Hawkins.
Hmm?
No, Dr. David Hawkins.
No,
Okay, I'll send you a link. Yeah, you will love this. I promise.
uh, send me a link. And
For
I'm going to
sure.
send you links, some really good stuff too. We'll have fun sending links to each other.
For sure. Dang. So you guys had to leave the guru and just could never see him again?
Well, and that's another irony to the whole story is he died shortly after that. I might have been one of the
Wow.
last. And he died in the fall of '73. And
Hmm.
it's kind of ironic that when I was with Ram Dass at his workshop in St. John's, and it might be the last workshop he did before he had a stroke, literally before he had a
Mm.
stroke. And then so it's kind of, there's so many different ironies to this whole thing. There's so many different lessons and different teachings, and I didn't know that this was going to happen the way it happened. I live now in Chiang Mai, Thailand, which has become the holistic capital of Southeast Asia, possibly.
Mm.
And I live with two daughters that I adopted from Myanmar, who were refugees from the war there. And well, working with people with trauma for 20 years taught me how to love people with trauma.
Hmm.
Because it was, it's so easy to go into judgment of somebody who's a trauma victim because they're often cruel and can often have difficult personality issues. Sure, it's a mild way of saying it. I was in a group one time. There was a trauma guy in the group who said, "We're going around the group as an icebreaker, saying, well, what do you like? What do you like? What do you like?" And he said, "I like to kill people." Oh my God! In
True.
a group, right? 90 days later, he was enjoying yoga. He was one of those lucky vets that got 90 days of treatment. 90 days later, because of love, he was doing yoga and couldn't wait to go home and show his wife how to do yoga.
Whoa.
That's the power of love.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. So my message, if there is one, is just build up that your heart. I mean, if you can't get your head to quiet down, you gotta find another path. The path of love is very valuable. Very same gets you the same place.
Yeah, like when you describe Ram Dass, his guru, and the other two guys that you mentioned, they just sound like they're just loving their life. Like I guess enjoying every moment, probably.
Well, I think Ram Dass's guru was beyond all that stuff. I think he was an
Dang.
enlightened. I
Mm.
think he was an enlightened being. I think there's no good or bad or joy or despair. There's no. I think there have been a lot of ascended masters. I think Christ and Buddha, Moses, Muhammad were ascended masters. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's an ascended master on the planet right now. There's one that I know. There's probably many of them. And her name is Amaji. I don't know if you ever follow.
What's her
Connected
name?
with her. Amaji, Ammaji. She's called the Hugging Saint.
Ah, dang, I didn't know. That's cool.
Look it up on YouTube, and she goes on tours, and she's the embodiment of love, like Mother Teresa was. She's
Ah,
a living version of Mother Teresa, and you can. She goes all around the world. So if you can get to any place where she is, it's worth going to.
cool.
Very cool.
What do you think of, or have you heard of this lady named Gangaji?
Yeah, I know. The guy I want you to meet in California, he's a very big adherent or advocate of this, Gangaji.
What does your
He spends
gut
a lot.
say?
Oh, he thinks she's it, that she's a great teacher. You know,
Mm,
there's to me there's, and I don't know if I don't know if I taught somebody told me this or whatever, but there's people that are teachers on this planet,
mm-hmm,
and then ascended masters. What you know, I don't know whether she's an ascended master or not. Ascended
mm,
masters on um, I don't think you, I don't, I can't even imagine what that's like.
mm,
You know, I kind of, uh, I've had moments in my years of, yeah, I think I've had moments. Well, think about it this way. What happens if you're so in love? So in love. What happens to you when you're so in love? You get a little crazy, don't you?
okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah. We get crazy. It's called love
Like,
crazy.
like
Yeah,
infatuation or something.
yeah. Well, take that to the nth degree, and you move into a state that's probably not explainable, explicable. Probably it's
Mm,
not. You know that Yogananda had that.
mm,
Um, Ramdas had it. I think he had it when he first. You know, I'm not supposed. I'm here to judge Ramdas, but in the course of our, because I was with him from the beginning, and then I was with him even after the stroke. Not with him. Yeah, with him. Saw him and heard him speak.
wow.
He was the most pure when he was in the first 5 years of his, first 5 years when he was the purest. And then a
Mm.
bunch of things happened, and he goes through that in his story.
How did his teachings change after the stroke?
Well, I don't know that the message was any different at all. I mean, he had. Can you imagine, like, you're in your 70s, I think he was in his 70s when it happened. You're in your 70s, and all of a sudden you lose half of your body. Half of your body will no longer respond to you, and half of the part of your brain that puts together sentences is struggling, like really difficult. So
Mm,
here's Ron, storyteller, who, if he gets frustrated at all, it's going to be very difficult for him to. He was an airplane pilot. He was a bon
mm,
vivant. He was a cellist. He was a martial artist. He was, skydiving, all those things. And all of a sudden, like that, all the mechanisms are turned off. So he is his message. I mean, he became his message.
mm-hmm.
To be a teacher of love and light, no matter what happens. I studied with a woman named Maria Fenton Gladys, who had Lou Gehrig's disease. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a fatal disease, and it takes away your ability to use your body.
This is the same as the scientist, right? Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
And my grandma too. She had it too.
Right. So she's my teacher for a long time. She was my teacher. She taught something called Gestalt therapy, which is a really beautiful way of helping people to get back as much emotional health as is possible and mental health. And she couldn't move her hand. Well, if you saw it, what was your grandmother, you said?
Yeah.
Did she get to a place where she couldn't open her fingers and couldn't pick up a glass or do anything?
I think eventually it did get to that point, yeah.
Yeah. And so she was my teacher while she was going through her process of dying.
Man.
And, she was with us at times where she couldn't pick up a glass to drink. She was literally very, very debilitated. And when she was working with someone, the the, the path for this Gestalt therapy is to re-experience anything in your life that's keeping you from becoming present and whole today.
Mm.
So you have to re-experience all your trauma and then re-experience it again and reframe it by putting a new ending on it. And you don't do it by talking about it, you do it by psychodrama, which is like really living it out, living that experience out. So you get people in there with traumas that are just horrendous, and they're reliving this, and they're laying on the floor and they're crying and sobbing and screaming. And she would have people put her down on the floor and she would hold them while they were in their, and that act of love was as powerful a healing tool as I've ever seen. As powerful as I've ever seen. And I got to live that. I learned that. And I've had experience with somebody that I was really upset with and really didn't like, and blah, 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 blah. My brain's going through all these examples, blah, 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 blah. And luckily, something happened. Well, that's another story. But luckily, something happened that made me move into compassion instead of judgment. And the instant I moved into compassion instead of judgment, the relationship I had with this woman changed, and we ended up becoming best friends.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. And then you have to learn the lesson, of course, of loving you.
I feel like you've experienced so much like synchronicity like throughout your life.
Yes, it's all been the classes have been really hard. The lessons have been very difficult, and love is one of them. Afterwards, I don't want to be in them anymore. I don't want to be in that much emotional or physical pain, but lessons were worth it.
Do you feel your seek for enlightenment has ended?
It's tempered by reality, because I don't know what it is. I don't know what enlightenment is.
Right.
I used to think I was. It was like, it's hard for me to believe that when we die, when this body no longer exists anymore, that energy inside of us doesn't just go off and be in the energy of the universe. Okay, so that's something I believe up here. I'm not sure I've got that completely in my heart. But let's put it this way. I'm still every day want to be the best version of Paul possible.
Oh yeah.
Version. The healthiest physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That's it. And be as loving as I can be. And when I can't be loving, to make amends for it. And when I can't make amends for it, to have compassion for myself.
Yeah, I feel like when I'm not being compassionate, I think maybe it's like a lack of clarity or something.
Absolutely, always. Always.
I've been experiencing that recently. Like I've been like, so I live in Vietnam. I teach grade 3 English. And I'm so patient and understanding with my students because they're kids. And then when I speak to adults, I feel like I've been so demanding and like being so, I don't know, like, having high expectations of them all the time. And I would get annoyed, like they're not performing like I want. But then with my students, I'm super nice.
You're aware of it. You're aware of it. Let me give you a trick, okay? Why not? Why not? It's all programming. It's not your fault. You were programmed to be who you are. You learned it as a child. None of this is your responsibility. It's only your responsibility to change your programming. And one way to do that is whenever you catch yourself being resentful towards someone or judgmental of someone. This I learned from AA. I stop when I catch myself, and I stop and go, I'm going to pray for this person's health, wealth, and happiness, and everything I want for myself, I want. And I've done that so many times and so long that as soon as I move out of judgment and go into the prayer, something turns around inside of me, and I can let go of the resentment, and I can move into the prayer. I can move into compassion.
That makes sense.
It's I hate to break the news to you, but you're not any different than I am. It's your responsibility to learn how to change the program. First, you're aware of the program. You just said, I realize I'm being judgmental or non-compassionate. But you're aware of it now. Now that you change the
Hmm.
program. It takes repetition, 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 repetition.
Like what I've been trying, yeah, is trying to catch myself as fast as
Yeah, good.
possible. But just for like a few days, I just didn't catch myself at all. So like by day 4 or 5, I was like, damn, this feels heavy. Like I'm kind of being a dick right now.
Well, and what you can do, I mean, like, you know, you have a picture of yourself as a little boy.
Hmm.
Good. Put it somewhere where you see it every morning, preferably every morning and every evening. You got it there?
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Does that little boy want to be judgmental and resentful?
No, he doesn't.
No. We learned it. We learned it from somebody. We learned it by some values that we got that when we don't like somebody's values, they don't value what we do, we get judgmental and resentful towards them.
Hmm.
Let him bring you back to being that young boy that you were, that was loving and non-judgmental.
Hmm.
And remember that everybody you're judging, every person I judge, I'm judging them because of how they turned out from their programming. And they didn't want to be who they were either. They didn't choose to be that way.
Hmm.
It just was the way the program was presented to. Again, I don't know what your nationality is, but you learn the language of your nationality with the program. You learn how to eat the way people in your area eat. All those are just programming. A lot of them are healthy. You want to be able to walk. You want to be able to talk. You want to be able to eat. You want to go.
Even
You
some
also got a
things
lot.
like what kind of girls you like. Like my family is Latino, like we're from Peru, South America, so like we like a specific type of girl. Like maybe in my hometown of Virginia, like they don't actually like that same type of girl. So it's like, but depending where I'm from, I like a type of girl. That was crazy.
Well, I think there's a certain amount of genetics to this also. I mean,
Mm,
when you get the attraction, there's probably a lot of genetics in
yeah.
there. Anyway, um, let's do this again if you don't mind.
Yeah. I'm sure there's like so many more questions to come up to, like
Yeah,
even
yeah,
st-
it's
even
it's
stuff
fun. You know?
about like I guess before I forget, do you know Robert Singer?
No,
Okay.
familiar
Well,
name.
he had some book where he mentioned that he met Ram Dass or whatever. It's some guy that I guess he's tried to live his entire life by intuition. I guess he's gone to do just like really random cool stuff. Yeah.
We all got our karma, I think, too. We got our karma to bear out. Some people are going to have an easier path. You don't even know if his path is easy or not. All you know is outside of them.
Mm,
For a long time, I pretended that my path, that the outside of me was wonderful, and I never suffered, and all that stuff was all bullshit. It
mm,
was all. I I didn't know who I was, so I just put on this mask and pretended everything was cool and I'm cool and all as well.
mhm.
Right? Not anymore.
Do you
Anyway, I'm glad you took the work. I'm really happy for you that you found something that is fulfilling to you. I'm assuming, yeah.
right.
The fulfillment.
So like Ram Dass and his guru, right? Like some people will say like that those type of people is someone that has like a fragrance or something. Like maybe not like a aroma itself, but just but like when you make eye contact with them, like something is happening there. Like, do you know any other people like that alive today?
Well, I told you about Amaji. I'll send you a link to her stuff.
Okay.
Uh, Ironically, some of my favorite teachers from my past were like the house person at the house in Vrindavan. They'd just been ordinary people,
Hmm.
but they had a lesson for me to learn. One was an old Polish lady who was a farmer. One was an old elderly man who was a construction, I mean, his whole life, he owned a construction company. And one was a guy who was a pizza man.
Cool.
And so these teachers come in all different fashions. I went to meet, I don't know if you've heard of Satya Sai Baba.
Yeah, with the afro.
Yeah. We went down to meet him also when we were there in India.
Yo, what did he feel like?
We, um, when we were there, there was maybe 1,000 or more people there. He was not a secret to anybody. He had uh, many Indian people there. So we were just um, all we could hope for was that he would choose you to maybe give you private darshan, but that didn't happen for us. So we stayed there for a while. He's kind of he has this thing that I don't know how he does it. I'm assuming that it's real. Um, he has no sleeves on his shirt, so his arm is completely bare, and he goes like this, and powder comes out of his hand.
Oh, right.
Powder,
I've seen the videos. Yeah.
booty, and people have taken this booty and healed all kinds of things. Now, the reason I take him seriously is because I knew two people, and I take that back. My ex-wife knew two men from the City College of New York, professors there, that went to meet this Sai Baba, and they did get private darshan with him. And supposedly, did you ever hear of the Akashic records? Akashic
This sounds familiar, but what is it?
Akashic records, and I'm not a I know I'm just a novice in all this stuff, but Akashic records are a record of your karmic history from forever on
Ah,
backwards.
mm,
Everything that you've been through, everything that's brought you from place to place when you're a snail, when you're a stone, when you're a tree, when you're whatever.
mm,
And people want to know what their Akashic record is, I guess, so they can try and influence the future, and
mm.
also Sachi Sai Baba, I don't know, part of his story is that when he was born into this life and he was a young boy, he told his family about his past life and told them specific things about his past life, about where he was, who he was, who his father and mother were, what the situation was, and on and on and on. And they took him to the village where this had all happened, and he met people there as Sai Baba, as a child, that he knew from his past life, and everybody swore that only the people that knew him from his past life could know that this was really the way they were talking, what they were talking about, and the things that they were going over in their life was so specific that it had to be, so maybe it was because of that these two guys, they wanted to find out about their Akashic record. They wanted to find out what was going to be their life lessons, what was going to be the future possibly. I never got a chance to talk to them, but I'm going to guess that's what I would have wanted to get from them.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, one of my friends, his family is I guess devoted to Satya Sai Baba.
mhm.
They live in South Africa,
uh
but I guess ethnically they're like I think almost like Sri Lankan or something. But
yeah,
but
a
yeah,
lot of
they're devotees of Sai Baba.
when they did the DNA tests on a lot of Indian people, their heritage came from India. I came from Africa.
Mm.
Started, and my me and my Burmese daughters are brown skinned like Indian people because the Indian and Myanmar borders are very close. So there's a lot of people
True.
spreading the wealth.
That's true. Oh, what do you think about Zen?
Too hard for me.
Yeah.
Too much too severe for me. I'm a lazy yogi. That's why I chose the club. You don't have to sit. It's quiet. I have I've never been able to sit in a yoga posture. Never. I studied yoga for 7 years. I ended up teaching yoga, introductory yoga, in way back when I started in 1970 somewhere. Uh, but I could never sit quiet. And the fact that somebody's going to come up to me in an authoritarian manner and hit me with a stalk over the shoulder, that's not in my comfort zone. That's way out of my comfort zone. I came from an authoritarian father. I never want to be around anybody who's authoritarian.
I'll be
And I
challenging.
understand the reasoning behind it. It conditions you to sit up straight,
Hmm.
but it's too severe for me. It's not my path. It's definitely not.
Mm. Did Bob Rock? Oh, sorry. I almost said Papa. Yeah, yeah, Baba Ramdas. Did Ram Dass ever label his teachings? Like, did he just call it spirituality or love or non-dualism or I don't know.
He studied Burmese meditation masters, Burmese Buddhist meditation masters. He studied with Hindu masters. He claimed that, at least I believe so. Now, there are other people that knew him better than I did, that were really like his best friends. I was never. I was just somebody who came to all of his workshops but he had people that he was very close to. But he talked about his yoga as being one of generic version of doing this for a while and then doing that for a while and doing this for a while. And, at least that's what I took out of it. That's what I do. I've never been able. More than 20 times in my life, I said, "Oh, I found the mantra I was supposed to be doing for the rest of my life." And 5 days later, I was doing something
That's
on my path.
cool. Yeah, exactly. Dang, that's so cool. I'm so lucky that I found a community here in Saigon that is also learning this.
Oh, cool.
Um yeah, but like before I had met them, I didn't even know what this was. Like this monk just gave me a bunch of books to read, and one of them was Power of Now. And it
Mm-hmm.
just triggered me into this rabbit hole where I was just like trying to get to the ending for a long time. And of course there's no ending, but I didn't know that.
I don't know. There's no ending that I have not found an ending. I found more life lessons.
Yeah. That's like the main point of be here now, right? It's like just be here, like just stop seeking.
Pretty much. If you remember, Nimkaroli Baba's message to Ramdas was love, serve, and remember God. That's all it was. So he didn't say meditate, meditate, meditate. He never said that at all. He said
Mm,
love everybody, serve everybody, and remember God. That's all he said.
true, right?
Part of that, but it took me a long time to learn, because I had to learn to love myself. It was easier
Hmm.
for me. So I spent a lot of time learning how to love me, and that's part of my life.
Like what would you say to somebody that when they make eye contact with their reflection, it feels uncomfortable?
When they when they make eye contact with their own reflection or reflection of
Yeah,
somebody else.
yeah, with their own reflection in the mirror.
Well, I mean, the first thing that came into my mind is that whoever that person was, I would want to help them to learn how to find compassion for themselves.
Mm,
I mean, if I can't look at myself, it's because I'm judging myself harshly, probably.
mm,
And if I don't want, not, I'm not here to judge anybody else harshly. I'm certainly not here to judge myself harshly.
mm,
One of the things I got that I loved dearly was um, forgive everyone, and for those people you can't forgive, find the place inside of you, find compassion for the part of you that's not able to forgive you. So you're always in a state of compassion. Even when I
mm,
can't find someone else, I can find compassion for the part of me that's not able to find it. And
mm.
that's so freeing. It's like, see, all this is about liberty. Oh,
That does feel free. I can feel it now that you talk about it.
no, it's real. It's real. Sometime I'm going to contact you because I want to start doing podcasts about sharing these life lessons with people and all the tools I have. I have a mountain of tools because I did so much work in the field of trauma and anxiety that I have a mountain of tools that I want to share. And I want to do it like one at a time and just put out a daily something or other, something simple.
That's awesome. Like right now, I'm making a career transition into mindfulness coaching. So this
Oh,
feels
good
like
for you.
perfect timing. I can learn so much from all your years of experience.
And yeah, so many different teachers, so many different. I
Yeah.
After I met Ramdas, I went everywhere. I went out to the the Hopi Reservation twice. Went out to Wounded Knee in South Dakota, the Sioux Reservation. I was looking for a teacher of shaman. I've looked in a lot of places, and and you don't have to look as much anymore. I can look in more nowadays.
Hmm. When's the last time you tried psychedelics?
Um, oh, it was in the early '70s sometime.
Okay.
I tripped a lot. I fell in love with it. I tripped up.
This
It
reminds
makes
me. I watched the Ram Dass short film, I think it's Going Home, right?
uh-huh.
And he mentioned that his first mushroom trip felt similar to when he met his guru the first time.
That would make sense. It's an out of body experience. If I haven't met a guru like that in the way that he did.
Hmm.
Um, you know, well, I
Yeah.
went out of my body. What am I saying? With Nimco Baba, I went out of my body with him and with Ram for short periods of time.
But do you know how Ram Dass found his guru, like how they first met?
Yeah, that's in the book, isn't it? I'll be here now. I can't remember
Dang,
where
I
I read it.
forget.
I mean, when I met him at the first time at Bucks County Center House, that's all I did was talk about his. He
Hmm.
spent 3 or 4 talking about his experience of meeting his teacher and prior to meeting his teacher
Ah, right, he told
about
his story.
he told his story.
True. Awesome. I think I'm
Yeah.
slowly learning how to tell my story. I'm still new to making content, so like, but I'm having fun learning this.
Um, anytime I can be helpful without a podcast, let me know.
Sure, sure. Yeah, just let me know what are your favorite topics, and then we can smash them. It'll be so fun.
Well, my favorite topics are how to live life best, becoming the best version of yourself possible. That's all I really want to talk about. There's no
Nice.
what else is there to talk about. I
True.
mean, like,
Just infinitely expanding.
yeah, I could talk about my favorite football team. I still like football and watching that. Still a Penn
Ah,
State fan. Um,
cool.
I have friends we throw talk about. But I mean, yeah, I'm not sure that I talk as much as I used to live life, as much as possible. Again, being my age and having two 22-year-old daughter and a 26-year-old daughter, and I have a girlfriend,
Mm,
I'm very much involved in their lives. And,
mm. I feel like if
you
we
know,
talk about anything related to like Ram Dass's teachings, I could go on forever. Like maybe like an
well,
infinity conversation.
one of the things that I've learned, and I'm going to share this with you, and I don't know whether it's true for you or not, but it's true for me. I'm going to tell you my experience. When I met Ram Dass at age 22, and I was still stuck in all my uh, neuroses, like he says, call them neuroses.
Mm,
Uh, I jumped on the spiritual bandwagon because enabled me to bypass all of my emotional work, all of the places where I was emotionally diseased, dis-ease, dis-ease.
mm,
And I found that what happened for me later on was I found that I couldn't really move forward with my spiritual program until I did the work on the emotional level to heal a lot of the wounds of, in my case, my childhood and all the unhealthy. I came from a very unhealthy programmed family,
mm,
very unhealthy. Zero love, lots of fear, tons of fear. That's the perfect prescription for. It's called an adjustment disorder. Some level can also be called trauma if it gets too extreme.